Por lo menos un ratito vamos a estar. De ahí nos vamos. Dice que Venezuela está contento que va a invadir Rusia y Ucrania. ¿Y pero por qué pones solo a ellos? Solo a nosotros.
Log into the website and that's all that we have.
Quítale por un rato hasta cuando ellos aparezcan. Hasta cuando ellos aparezcan en nosotros.
Hi, and your name is Hector Moore, and this is Mia Moore. Mia Moore.
Bill Gates está vendiendo sus acciones y los motivos son alarmantes.
Esos aquí.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Wow, who do I see here? Hello, Ed and Lisa. Hello, David. Hello, oh my gosh, Michael and Magdalena. Good to
Yeah.
see you.
It's been a long time.
It is. Where do you find yourselves these days?
Well, at the present, we're still in Olympia, Washington.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. It's been a long time no schmooze. How have things been for you?
Okay. The weather's pretty cold.
Wow. Yes. Yes, I'm so happy to see your faces.
Thank you. Likewise, it's been a long time.
Yeah. I imagine you may have heard the news about Michael.
No?
Unfortunately, Michael Zorn, who used to join us at the classes, passed away.
Oh, no.
When?
Sorry.
We just had the funeral yesterday.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. He was a good fellow.
We will miss him. We will miss him.
Yeah. Eres viejito, right?
Mhm.
Oh.
Yes,
He was so friendly.
he was. He had such a warmth, such a smile,
Oh,
always
yeah.
schmoozing, always sharing information.
Oh.
A real mensch.
Duermes. Yeah.
What did he die of?
You know, he had a fall while in the street, and unfortunately never recovered from it. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Come. Time come. Yeah.
Hello, John. Good to see you.
Greetings, Rabbi. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you.
How was it working at the farm?
Cows are fed, got the wood chopped, everything's good.
Wow. Wow, that's great. So you have to go up there every day to feed the cows, or they take care of themselves?
I feed big round 750-pound hay bales. So one of those bales will last a couple days, and I feed a couple at a time, so I have a little slack.
Gotcha. They aren't calling you hungry. Ay, ay, ay.
Okay.
1 second.
Oh. No se me quita. Recién murió con la mujer, ¿no es cierto?
Hello, Jonathan. Hello, everyone else who just joined. Hi, Nina. It's very, very special to be with you here today, and I want to dedicate our shiur tonight in memory of Michael ben Reuven, loving memory of our dear friend Mike. His neshama should have a peaceful experience as it goes through this year of Avilut. We will miss you dearly, Michael. We will miss you at our shiurim, and we are so lucky to have had the privilege to have you here in our community. And we're going to dedicate this Torah study as well for the Refuah Shalema of Avraham Michael ben Chaya. He should be healthy and strong, and he'll speedily be able to continue on with life in the best way possible. And I want to start off today. I am sure each and every one of us on our minds is what's going on in Ukraine, and it's almost it's so unpleasant to see what kind of stuff is going on there. We know that Ukraine not only is home to 40 million people, but especially 300,000 of our own, which are there, 300,000 Jewish people over there. And of course, there's I believe 30 Chabad centers around Ukraine. The Rebbe's family is from Ukraine originally, and much of Jewish history happened in Ukraine. So there's such a place in our hearts for what's going on over there. God should bless them. Blessed that there should be a miraculous, peaceful resolution to this mishigas that's going on over there. And that most importantly, all our brethren, all good people should be safe and protected. And we should be able to share news of good and a peaceful resolution very, very soon. So we're going to begin with Psalm 20 from Tehillim. That's the place we go anytime we're in distress. This is something, we're sitting in Olympia, Washington. It's hard to know, what can we do? What can we do to benefit the situation over there beyond watching the shows, and that sometimes can bring us to quite a panic? It's important for us to daven and to try to do mitzvahs in the merit of their safety and well-being. So let's say this first in the Hebrew and then in the English. Lam natseach mizmor leDavid, Yancha Adonai b'yom tzara, Yisagevcha Hashem Elahei Yaakov, Yishlach Ezrecha mikodesh u'mitzion Yisadeka, Yizker kol min chosecha ve'elascha yidash nesela, Yitin lecha chilvavecha v'chalatzascha yimale, Neranada b'shuasecha v'shem Eloheinu nidgo yimale Adonai kol mishalesecha. Ati adati ki asher ene mishicha yaneh mishmei kache b'gvuras yeshi yaminai. Ela varecha ve'ela basusim v'anachnu b'shem Adonai Eloheinu naskir. Hey makaro v'nafalu v'anachnu kamnu v'anisaydad. Adonai Hashia HaMelech Ya'anenu B'yom Karenu. And now in the English. For the conductor, a song by David. May the Lord answer you on the day of distress. May the name of the God of Jacob fortify you. May he send your aid from his sanctuary, and may he support you from Zion. May he remember all your meal offerings, and may he accept your fat burnt offerings forever. May he give you as your heart's desires, and may he fulfill all your counsel. Let us sing praises for your salvation, and let us assemble in the name of our God. May the Lord fulfill all your requests. Now I know that the Lord saved his anointed. He answered him from his holy heavens with a mighty act of salvation from his right hand. These trust in chariots, and these trust in horses, but we mention the name of the Lord our God. They kneel and fall, but we rise and gain strength. O Lord, save us. May the King answer us on the day we call. May Hashem hear our prayers and truly bring safety and security for the Jewish people stuck in Ukraine, the Jewish people in Ukraine, and for all people who live there. And with that, we are going to jump from prayer to Torah and a special Torah class, which is deeply connected with tzedakah. Now, it's interesting. Sometimes we discuss things which are direct dialogues or analysis on the Torah portion. And this time we're going to take a mitzvah that's mentioned in this week's Torah portion, and we're going to examine it at length. And the mitzvah is the mitzvah of tzedakah. Now, how does tzedakah, charity, how does that mentioned in our parsha? So I've mentioned on a couple of occasions. This week's Torah portion talks about the building of the Mishkan. It was a one-day fundraiser. There was no mortgages in the desert. If you wanted to build a sanctuary, you had to have it all cash. So everything was donated on that day. Moshe gave out a call, and Moshe said, we need to build this tabernacle. We need gold, silver, copper, these materials, and everything was donated. Like I said in the past, Moshe ends up saying, it's in this week's Torah portion. He says, stop, we have enough. So we see how the Jewish people were enthusiastic about the mitzvah of tzedakah. They jumped in to be able to give charity, to help the community with such a passion, with such a joy, that they got it done so quickly that perhaps it's a great opportunity to take a look at the mitzvah of charity, the mitzvah of tzedakah. Hi, Rob, welcome, good to see you. And we are going to do just that today. We're going to take a look at the mitzvah of tzedakah. And I got to tell you that the mitzvah of tzedakah is something which is not only something that's ingrained in our heritage and who we are as Jewish people, but it's something that is often the prescription of a good mitzvah to do when we want to help a situation, help someone in need, help someone who needs healing, help the memory of someone's neshama, or in this case, help people that are across the world in a position of great conflict. Tzedakah is always a great mitzvah to do. So many times we discuss teachings from the Torah, and we bring all sorts of commentaries, and we also bring in explanations from the Rebbe. And I got to say that it's quite well known, the Rebbe's emphasis on the mitzvah of charity. The Rebbe himself embodied it in a tremendous way and encouraged everybody to do the mitzvah of tzedakah. The Rebbe would, on his way in and out of shul, he would stop and give coins to every child so that they could put it in the pushka and give it to charity. The Rebbe felt that lo ha-midrash ikar ela hamasa, the action is the main thing. Every time two people meet, it should benefit a third. And people wanted to see the Rebbe, so the Rebbe ended up in 1986 starting the dollar line practice, where on Sundays people could come and speak a few words with the Rebbe, ask a blessing. At the same time, the Rebbe would always give $1 to each one, at least one, sometimes even two. The idea was, give this $1 to charity. Our meeting should benefit a third. And the Rebbe did this on many occasions, even beyond the Sunday dollars. The Rebbe would find ways to encourage people to give tzedakah to any cause, to anywhere, but that whatever we do should always be cognizant of other people in need. Starting from 1950, the Rebbe would hold Shabbat Farbrengens, Hasidic gatherings, and also on special days. And at these gatherings, the Rebbe would deliver long, lengthy Torah dissertations, very beautiful, phenomenal Torah insights that we have as a fountain of wisdom and inspiration to this very day. And sometimes these Farbrengens lasted 4, 5, 6 hours, and thousands of people were in attendance, listening to the Rebbe talk and singing the nigunim, the songs between the talks, and they would wish l'chaim to the Rebbe. And at the end of the Farbrengen, starting in the 70s, the Rebbe started a new practice where he wanted that this entire lengthy Torah discussion shouldn't just be an inspirational gathering, one that was intellectually stimulating, but it should also affect immediate action. The Rebbe always had a call to action at the end of his talks, even if it was lengthy Talmudic dissertations or Hasidic explanations, always a call, what are we going to do to become better people? And the Rebbe wanted to connect his talks with something immediate in the realm of mitzvahs, in the realm of action. What's a mitzvah you can do right away? So at the end of the Farbrengens, the Rebbe started a new practice where he would give to everybody $1 to give out to tzedakah. However, it would be quite a job for the Rebbe to give out $1 to every single one of the thousands of people attending, men and women. So the Rebbe said he's going to appoint agents to give out the dollars to everybody from him. And the Rebbe chose a group of people which were called affectionately the Tankistim. What were the Tankistim? In 1967, the 6-Day War in Israel, it was a time of great fear. People were afraid this was like going to be a second Holocaust, God forbid, a threat of annihilation for millions of Jewish people in the Middle East. And the Rebbe started a mitzvah campaign, first tefillin, that people should go out and put on tefillin with other people in the streets, and then other mitzvah campaigns, mezuzah, Shabbat, other mitzvahs that the Rebbe encouraged to engage people on the go. What's the line? Judaism on the spot for people on the go. A 1-minute stand mitzvah. So the Rebbe encouraged people to go out and take a few minutes during a break and go find somebody to do a mitzvah. And actually, for the few months after the 6-Day War, the yeshivas, the Rebbe encouraged the yeshiva students to just spend as much time as they could every day to go out to Manhattan, to Brooklyn, to anywhere in the New York area and meet people and get them to do mitzvahs in the public vicinity. And they ended up coming with this idea to repurpose RVs, motorhomes, that they could be like a little place on the street where they could park on the side of the street and people could come in and they could do a prayer, they could put on tefillin, they could get Jewish resources. It would all be equipped as kind of like a miniature Jewish center on the go. And it was called mitzvah tanks. I'm sure some of you have seen them before, especially in the larger cities. They have them all the time. In Seattle, there's one. A mitzvah tank. Olympia has yet to receive one, but mitzvah tanks are a phenomenal thing, and the Rebbe took to the idea with great pride, and he would call the people that went on the tanks, he'd call them my tankistin. It's not like a real word, but it's like, these are my tankists. These are the folks who run the tanks, and these were of course tanks of joy, tanks of spiritual energy, and the Rebbe would give out these dollars to the tankistin to distribute to everybody. And everybody was very proud of the people that would spend as much time as they could just going out of their comfort zone to meet people to do mitzvahs. So it happens one Motzei Shabbat, one Saturday night, that there's a Farbrengen. It's Saturday night. The Rebbe finishes the Farbrengen, and the Rebbe calls up the Time Kisten to give out these dollars that are ready for charity. But first, the Rebbe mentions an ancient practice that one doesn't touch money on Saturday night. What are we talking about? So, we've had recently a death in the community, and I want to take this moment to encourage everybody here from the bottom of my heart. Please take the time to write and sign a will. I'm sure it might not be the easiest thing to hear from a young person like myself, but I beg you, everybody, to, even if you're not sure your wishes are final, you can always go back and change it. It is so challenging when loved ones need to make decisions which are hard to decide on after a person's passing. A will is very, very important thing, and in Jewish practice, it's something been done for many, many generations. We have, going back to Talmudic times, the idea of a will, not just of there's a will to split up your possessions, but a will, what's it called? A will where you share your wisdom. The next, there's a word for it, when you share messages with the next generation.
Ethical will.
Ethical will, exactly. Ethical will. So there are many sages that wrote ethical wills. Some of them we have still. And there was a fellow, his name was Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid. Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid, I don't know exactly when he lived. It was well over 1,000 years ago. And he wrote a will that became published as a book. It had 70 instructions in it, 70 instructions. And from all the different wills that have been published from different Jewish sages, this one is probably the most famous one. And in his will, he shares 70 things based on Jewish mysticism that a person should or shouldn't do. Now, he doesn't give much explanation or even sources through it. But interestingly, many, many of these things have become tradition, accepted tradition across the Jewish people. There's an old Jewish saying that says, if only Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid would have included the 10 Commandments in his will, people would have abide by them with much greater enthusiasm. So Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid has a will. Some examples of the things he says in there, for example, 2 children shouldn't get married on the same day. 2 siblings, 2 siblings shouldn't get married on the same day. Or you shouldn't marry somebody which has the same name as your mother or your father. So if you marry a woman and she has the same name as your mother, Jewish tradition, you may have heard this, somebody will add a name. I've seen this. I've had 2 friends that married young women that had similar names, or they themselves had a name as their father-in-law, and one of them added a name. It's something that people do just to be safe, to make sure they're doing everything in line with Rabbi Yehuda's will, Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid's will. What's some other examples? He says, so I wrote down some examples over here. Let me see. He wrote, don't make your house taller than the community shul. If anybody needs me to come cut down their roof, no, we have to build a taller shul. All right. Don't have a person be sandik at more than one of your children's brisses. You may have heard of this, but if you have 2 boys, more than 2 boys, you'll never have the same person be sandik. It's considered to be bad luck. So Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid writes that a person should not distribute money on Saturday night. So the Rebbe asks, why am I giving out charity on Saturday night? This is going to be a great segue into discussion about charity. So let's get this on the board. After all this introduction, let's talk about this. All right. Rabbi Yehuda the Chassid writes in his will that one should not distribute money on Motzei Shabbat. There's also a well-known story told over by my father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, that his father, Rabbi Shalom Dover, the 5th Rebbe, instructed his wife not to ask for money for the expenses of the home on Motzei Shabbat, but rather to do so either before Shabbat or on Sunday. And it's very interesting. A lot of people do keep this, that if they're going to want to spend money on Saturday night, they'll set it aside before Shabbat. There's something special about not dealing too much with your money on Saturday nights. So what is the deal with not spending money on Motzei Shabbat? And as a matter of fact, there's actually other sources in Judaism that say a person shouldn't give money to charity at night. And yet the Rebbe did it all the time. So let's take a look at this. Furthermore, regarding charity in general, the Jerusalem Talmud writes, when a certain sage gave charity at night, a claim was lodged against him, accusing him of overstepping the boundaries of the other side. What does that mean? That means that at night is a time of darkness, so to speak, the evil forces have greater strength. By giving tzedakah, you're like not giving the evil forces a chance. So we're going to read this piece of Talmud in a moment. This seems to raise a question with regard to charity distribution right now. It is now evening, and it's also Motzei Shabbat, a double whammy. The Rebbe should not be giving out charity Saturday night. Well, let's take a look. First, let's read the Jerusalem Talmud. Rabbi Chinena Bar Papa, that's how it says, would distribute his charity at night to hide his identity from the receivers. One time, the minister of evil spirits encountered him. The angel said to him, "Did not our teacher teach us, do not displace your neighbor's boundaries?" In other words, that in the legal sense is you have to respect the fences, don't move the fence over to make your property bigger. But in this case, he's saying, don't do mitzvahs at night. This is my turf. In other words, night is under the dominion of the evil spirits, not human beings. Rabbi Chinena replied, but is it not written, a gift in secret appeases anger? Since I am giving charity in secret, I am not afraid of spirits. The angel feared Rabbi Chinena and fled. So I guess Rabbi Chinena did the right thing. The evil spirit left. Although we see, interestingly, even the great Kabbalist, the Arizal, who lived roughly 500 years ago, would not give charity in the evening. My master, the Arizal, would give charity to collectors during the morning and afternoon prayers, but not during the evening prayers. The Rebbe addresses this, mentioning that it's become American practice that fundraisers, what do they call them? Parlor meetings. Parlor meetings, the way they used to be done, are often done Motzei Shabbos. Saturday night was a great night for a parlor meeting. Fundraisers, Malava Malkas, those are special Jewish events that different organizations would do on Saturday nights. It works out practically in a very convenient way that you have after Shabbat, everybody's had a whole Shabbos to rest. They still have to digest the cholent and the kugel. They're not ready to go to bed quite yet. And Saturday night's a great time to do a fundraiser. Everybody's in a good mood. So what's the deal with that, especially considering everything that we've just read about not giving charity at night or Saturday night? The answer is, it is customary in many locales, and especially in the United States, that when fundraising meetings are held, they are for the most part held together with the Malava Malka, the customary feast of Motzei Shabbat. These are charitable fundraisers held by institutions whose leadership know about the teaching in the Jerusalem Talmud and the will of Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid. In other words, this is an issue that has already been widely dealt with. So, what we're going to explain is that our day and age is one where charity is paramount. Action is the main thing. If you go back in time, you will see how the Torah tells us that Talmud Torah keneged kulam, that study of Torah is equal in weight, so to speak, to all the mitzvot. But the Rebbe is going to assert that in our day and age, charity, being there for one another, action, just doing, is really, really the call of our generation, which makes it take precedence over this caution that people would have not to give tzedakah on Motzei Shabbos, on Saturday night, or night in general. In other words, in previous times, the necessity for focus on charity was not as critical, but there's something special about the day and age that we live in that makes charity so critical. Let's take a look at this. We can explain this matter by analyzing the following statement of the Alter Rebbe in Tanya. In these times, when the approaching footsteps of Mashiach are close upon us, the principal service of God is a service of charity. As our sages of blessed memory said, Israel be redeemed only through charity. This is from the Haftorah, right around the Tisha B'Av time. When it talks about rebuilding the Holy Temple, it says that it will be done through charity, the Haftorah tells us. Our sages of blessed memory did not say the study of the Torah is equivalent to the performance of acts of loving kindness, except in their own days. For with them, the principal area of divine service was the study of the Torah, which is why at that time there were great scholars. However, this is not the case at a time when the approaching footsteps of Mashiach are close upon us and the sukkah of David has fallen. You know, they say that our people is compared to one great person. We are connected, like one human being is made up of multiple parts of our body. And in a certain sense, the earlier generations were like the head. There was glorious Torah knowledge, incredible Torah knowledge, the incredible amount of memory and tradition that was passed down from generation to generation. If you look at the incredible wealth that comes from times bygone, you can see how that was clearly the call of the hour, expounding and expounding in the realm of the study of Torah. In our generation, the way God made it happen, again, there are incredible people in our times and people who study Torah with great devotion, but at the same time, we don't have people with the greatness of the Talmudic sages. It's just not the way it is today. Why is that? Hashem wanted us to focus on action. If you think about it, going down from the head all the way to the heels, to the feet, we are told that our day and age is, so to speak, on the heels of a better time, the heels of Mashiach. So if you think about the feet are not so into intellect. They are controlled by the mind, but ultimately the feet are focused on action. They'll get you where you need to go. So this is a time of action. This is a time when we don't ignore Torah study, but there's tremendous emphasis on tzedakah. This is a passage that we recite every day in the morning blessings, but it's from the tractate Peah in the Talmud. The following are the things for which a man enjoys the fruits in this world, while the principle remains for him in the world to come: honoring one's parents, charity, arriving early to the study hall in the morning and evening, welcoming guests, visiting the sick, providing for a bride, accompanying the dead, focusing in prayer, making peace between man and another, between husband and wife. But listen to this, but Torah study is equal to all of them. So we see how the Talmud asserts that Torah study is of such incredible importance. This is puzzling. How can one say that the Talmud statement, the study of Torah is equal to all of them, was only relevant in the days of the Talmud, whereas nowadays the priorities have changed? The answer is that this is not a change in the Torah, God forbid, but rather a change in the world. Since, as the Alter Rebbe said, the world has fallen so low in the days preceding Mashiach, the task necessary at this particular time is to elevate the world through charity. According to Torah law, a time-specific mitzvah outweighs Torah study. In general, if you are at night all of a sudden made aware of God forbid, a death in the family, or some other time-bound mitzvah, you are actually obligated to stop studying and do the time-bound mitzvah. In our day and age, it is of critical importance to share goodness and kindness all around, to do more tzedakah and more tzedakah and more tzedakah. That is what can influence our world to become a better place. That is how we're going to bring this world to a state of perfection. Every dollar we give to charity, every time we make a donation, we make a contribution, we help somebody in need, we are bettering our world and we're getting ourselves one step closer to Mashiach. The same is true in our case. Standing at the end of the exile, when charity has become a mitzvah of immediate importance, our sages say Israel will not be redeemed, but through charity. All the limitations regarding charity donations in the evening or on Motzei Shabbat have become null and void due to the immediate importance of charity. In other words, the things that we were afraid of because of demons, because of this, because of that, not to give tzedakah at night, ultimately pale in comparison to the critical necessity to add in tzedakah in our day and age. So therefore, the Rebbe solidified his case for why tzedakah is of such importance that even if his gathering was at night, people should still use it as an opportunity to do tzedakah right away. Don't say in the name of the Torah, so to speak, that we're going to push off doing a good thing and helping somebody or helping a cause, helping a community because of the night. This is a time where time is of the essence, and our focus is to add in goodness and kindness, literally tzedakah, charity. The Rabbi connected this with the blessed country that we're in, which I think, it's on our minds today. Seeing tensions in other parts of the world, we are really, really lucky to live in this place, and may we continue to live in a very blessed country. This also explains why this custom to hold fundraising events on Motzei Shabbat originates specifically in this country. The arrival of Jews in the United States was a godsend. Originally, it was difficult to understand why God caused the Jewish people to immigrate to America, a land dry of Judaism. You may have heard the expression "a treif in a Medina," right? That's what many of the European Jewish leaders called America. They were afraid of America. It was a place where there was very, very sparse Jewish infrastructure, a place which presented so many spiritual challenges in the early years. But after the upheavals in the old world, heaven protect us, it became obvious that the purpose of the establishment of the Jewish community here was to earn significant wealth and to be in the position to rescue the brethren in Europe. This is not, however, the time to discuss this at length. The Rabbi said, first of all, even those Jewish people that were in a position of wealth and were able to sponsor their family to come over, there are people even in our community, and my group, some of my grandparents that were able to come to this country because of relatives that sponsored them and brought them over. The Jewish people that came here and made enough of a living that they could come and help brethren across the world was clearly ordained by God. Therefore, since the American Jewish community excels in fulfilling the mitzvah to give charity, it was here that this custom developed to hold fundraisers on Motzei Shabbat, thereby emphasizing the vital importance of charity in this generation. So the Rabbi says, the superficial reason is that people do not work on Sunday. Wall Street is closed. And by scheduling events on Motzei Shabbat on Saturday night, the fundraisers will not have to worry that people will leave early in order to get to sleep early, in order to run off to work early the next day. They will therefore be able to patiently sit until a late hour and sit through all the speeches of the benefactors, who, of course, in exchange for the donation, want the right to speak just as long as they please without running out in the middle. So the Rabbi says, I know that there's a practical reason, but everything has a deeper side to it. And the deeper side is that Hashem wants us to take charity to the extreme. Even doing it at times that it used to be avoided, nowadays we give tzedakah. We give tzedakah at night. We'll give tzedakah Motzei Shabbos. And we'll do whatever we can to add a little bit in charity whenever we can. The inner reason, however, is as mentioned above, that in the end of the exile, charity has become a mitzvah of immediate importance and cannot be pushed out. So the message is very strong about tzedakah and its importance in our times. The Rabbi shared an anecdote about himself. He said, once I was in a synagogue at night and I deposited some money in the charity box. When somebody, again, this is early on before the Rabbi took leadership, and somebody approached me and argued, how could you do this? After all, it's stated in the writings of the Arizal that charity should not be given at night. Afterwards, when I was with my father-in-law, the previous Rabbi, I told him that I had been chastised that day, and I told him the story about giving charity at night. The Rabbi replied and said to me, he probably does not give charity during the day either, and therefore feels bothered when he sees another person giving charity at night. If we're holding ourselves back from giving tzedakah at night, it'd be a good idea to check in with ourselves. What is it that's really holding us back? This is the kind of mitzvah that we can really grab and take advantage of whenever we can, to give more tzedakah, because that is really the call of the hour. Charity is on a physical level, helping people contribute with financial contributions, and there's spiritual charity, helping people grow in their Judaism, which is very much in the line of tzedakah. Our sages have taught that through giving charity to a needy person, one's prayer secures and draws down a good life, redemption and salvation, livelihood and sustenance. And I want to pause for a moment because I want to just share a couple things about tzedakah. First of all, the Talmud tells us tzedakah tatzil mimavet, charity saves from death. It's something which is, if we're looking to do mitzvahs to add merit for somebody that's in a life-threatening situation, or just to avoid any life-threatening situation, tzedakah is the way to go. Tzedakah is considered a trigger. It's a great divine trigger in Jewish wisdom to bring down blessings in every part of life. We're familiar with the mitzvah of tithing, maaser. Typically, the Jewish law says that a person should give 1/10 of their earnings to charity. If they'd like to give more, that's fantastic and will bring more blessings, and they shouldn't give more than a chomesh, than 1/5 of their earnings to charity. However, the Talmud says that if a person feels that they are in need of extra blessing, they are in a situation where they have, big misdeeds, so to speak, to atone for. They've got a critical situation in the family. Kol asher yitein ish ba'ad nafsho. Whatever a person can give in order to save his soul, a person is allowed to give. In other words, if a person wants to go to the extreme, there is such a place in Judaism to give extreme amounts of charity. If a person feels that they have a special need, that they require extra mercy from Hashem, they can give even more. So we see how Torah really puts tremendous value in using our funds to help other people in need. Now, the human being, second paragraph, like all created beings, and included even sublime angels, has a body and a soul. Just as a person can be poor in body and in the needs of the body, so too a person can be poor in soul and in the needs of the soul. Therefore, with regards to charity, there's material charity and spiritual charity, as our sages teach. How does one fulfill the obligation of the verse in Isaiah? When you see the naked, clothe him. If you see a man who has no words of Torah, bring him into your house, teach him Shema and prayer. Teach him and encourage him to observe the commandments. In other words, there's spiritual charity as well. We find ourselves in a time where many don't have the good fortune of being at our Torah classes or having had a Jewish education growing up. And when we take a moment to share something about the upcoming Jewish holiday, to share with them a prayer they might be able to say in honor of those suffering in Ukraine, to say with them a prayer that can benefit someone in their family that needs healing, we are doing a spiritual form of tzedakah as well. Just as each man or woman and a woman among us asked to be inscribed and sealed for a good year materially and spiritually, so should each one of us exert himself in extending both material charity and spiritual charity, particularly in the days of El and Tishri. This is a letter from the end of the year. So the Rabbi is talking about starting off a new year with extra charity. And as we stand during these days before the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, each man and woman among us will have in his hand a large account, large in proportion to his ability, of acts of charity that he has undertaken to save the pauper in body, and acts of charity that he has undertaken to save the pauper in soul. Just as with material charity, even a person who is materially poor is under an obligation, for there is no poor person who cannot find a way to help a fellow pauper. See, Torah gives us a mitzvah to help each other. Even if we are in poverty ourselves, we should give something to tzedakah. And so too with spiritual charity, even when a person who is spiritually poor has an obligation to give, for there is no Jewish man or woman who cannot influence the sons and daughters of the Jewish people and bring them near the fear of heaven and to the Torah and its mitzvahs. The Rabbi would often say, if you know Aleph, teach Aleph. If you know Beis, teach Beis. Even a poor person has to give tzedakah. Even on poor, there's a mitzvah to give charity to poor people. No matter what your income is, two poor people can even exchange money so that we can all fulfill our duty as human beings to care for each other. We care for each other physically, care for each other spiritually, and this compiled effort of all of us together finding extra ways to give tzedakah can bring a better time upon us, a time of when swords will truly be beaten to plowshares. These wars will be finished, and there'll be spiritual wisdom aplenty in the world. Time of healing, a time of peace and joy may be speedily in our times. L'chaim. Love to hear any questions, feedback, comments, ideas, thoughts. And of course, I want to wish everybody a good Shabbos. I want to mention that we're going to daven this Shabbos at the shul as we do every week. And we are looking forward to dedicating our service in memory of Mike. We'd like to say Kaddish, and it would be wonderful to have a minyan. In order to do so, whoever is able to participate, it will be a special mitzvah. And also, we'll have a good time schmoozing and enjoying time at the Kiddush as well afterwards, and some good kosher food. If you're able to make it, we'd love to see you there.
I talked to my mother in Poland today. She said that Poland is taking refugees from Ukraine. They have a train by the border, and they bring them in, and they provide for them. So
wow,
it's something.
It's so amazing to. I can't believe we're hearing this stuff, but it's amazing to see people caring and opening up for each other in Poland and Moldova and wherever people are taking each other in. And we hope this ends really soon, but that's really heartwarming to hear. Where does your mother live?
She lives in Poland, southwest Poland, near it's a city called Legnica. It's like, near the German border.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But she said it's a lot on TV. They're showing, what's happening, and like here, my husband was watching some news, and they show like they're walking towards the border, and then they let them cross. So
They let them cross.
yeah.
Oh, wow. That's good to hear.
I did hear too that there are Israelis in Ukraine trying to get other Israelis and Jews and others out of there. And they were asked if they were going to just have to leave. And they said, no, we'll stay until everyone that we want to get out has been able to get out.
Yes, I heard
And
that.
the guy who was interviewed was wearing a vest, with Hebrew letters. He's an Israeli himself with an Israeli group. I was so proud to see that.
Incredible.
They were saying on news that it's hard to get out. Like
Yeah.
the streets are blocked. There's like, no gas, and like to hire a bus, it's I think like $2,000. Yeah. So
He said exactly, Nina. This speaker said that there were no cars. There's no transportation. They had to hire 2 buses to get some of these people out.
Wow.
And it cost $10,000 American dollars.
So it's going up. Yeah.
Right. And I don't know how many more they'll be able to get out. It's terrible. Yeah.
It's
The joint
difficult.
The Joint Distribution Committee, which is dates to the pre-war times working in Ukraine, has a special appeal right now going on online
Yeah.
to generate income. And they have workers that aren't going to leave and not getting telegrams, leave Ukraine like they did when the Nazis were moving in.
It's incredible to see the Jewish organization spring into action and to staying there on the floor, on the ground to help people. Ukraine actually is home to the largest Jewish community center in the world. It's called the Menorah Center. It's huge. It's like a menorah. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buildings together. Huge place. It's amazing. It's remarkable to see people putting themselves on the line. I hope we would all do the same, but I hope we never get put into such a situation.
But it's really difficult to live when it's upheaval. Like my family, like myself and my husband and 3 children, we escaped Poland when it was, we worried that it's going to happen what happened in Ukraine because the Russian army was standing by the border. So, but it was like, law is not working, there's nothing to eat, there's a problem. So it's really hard to, be able to actually escape. If you do, you're lucky. So I wish those people good luck.
I didn't know that about you, Nina. Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's 1981. We did.
Wow.
We just crossed the border with whatever we had on us, like clothes in the summer. And that was it. We left stuff behind. But as I said, we used the kind of moment when it was like, strikes, upheaval, and there was not really paying attention. So we made it through the border to Austria.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's really, you have to keep your kind of wits together, not to get distracted or scared. Because otherwise, you're not going to make it. Not trying to take whatever you can. Just leave everything. You can make it later on.
Wow. Wow. Only respect for you, Nina. Wow.
And I have a baby with us. It was kind of difficult.
Sure. Wow.
Well, hopefully that's but we were worried totally because I said where we lived was close to the border with East Germany, and they were standing we knew the Russian army was standing by. So it was just, would they cross or not cross? They didn't. I think President Reagan at this time, like that some no, I don't know, diplomacy, and they went back. They did not cross over, but we have martial law, and it was nothing much better. But yeah,
Wow.
well,
Have a good Shabbos, everybody. We should share good news very soon.
thanks.
Good Shabbos. Stay well, everyone.
Good Shabbos. Glad to see you.
Good to see you, Eminem.
Yeah,
been a
likewise. Yeah,
Thank you.
Welcome back.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Please show up more often.
Yeah, we